Good day, good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in this world listening to Dojo Live. This is Ram Ganesan, your co host on Wednesdays. I'm joined by my fantastic colleague, Tulio Siragusa. I'm calling from New Jersey. Tulio is based in Los Angeles. We're excited to have Mina Tanikachalam, Head of Data Strategy and Data Architecture at Ally, to join us from Charlotte, North Carolina. How are you doing today, Mina?
Nice, Ram. How about yourself?
Doing great, doing great. And the title is Cloud Computing and Data Analytics. How is cloud computing helping data and analytics at Ally or generally in the industry? So, Mina, just to kick this off, we would like to understand a little more about yourself. Anything that you would like to share with the audience here. We have a global stream of enthusiasts, young and old, interested in technology and data and all things cool. So, let us tell us a little more about yourself.
Sure. Thank you for hosting me today. First of all, thank you so much, Ram and Tulio. Uh, Mina Tanikachalam, Head of Data Strategy and Architecture at Ally Financial. Ally is a leading digital financial services company. I'm based out of Charlotte. Data is my passion, and I enjoy anything and everything in data space. And My interest in data started as early as I graduated from college. So one fascinating fact is you can see the numbers live with data. There's no necessity to make any assumptions or you don't need to interpret or predict without the facts. You have the facts, and using the facts, you predict using the data and make use of the data to solve business problems. It's quite fascinating to be working in the data space. So data has always been my passion. And also, I would say I have a lot of other hobbies, and I enjoy cooking, interior decorations, and also I'm very passionate about astrology. So those are my interests.
Astrology and data, quite interesting. And as they say, and it's a good choice, data, because as they say it now, data is the new oil. So good place to be in. Large amount of problems to solve, great amounts of money to be unlocked and made. So good stuff there. So you head data strategy and architecture at Ally. Shed a little more light about that. What your role is, and how you're moving the needle at Ally.
Yeah. Ally, as I stated, is a leading digital financial services company. We are doing a lot of innovation in the data space. As head of strategy and architecture, my responsibility includes spearheading the technology landscape, making use of data, coming up with recommendations and ideas to solve business challenges. Also, creating a vision and roadmap for the data organization, working with our business partners and also with the senior executives. We lay out a roadmap and solution blueprint for various data initiatives. Uh, I have a team of architects, and we work very closely with our business and also with our engineering functions in delivery and execution. So it's kind of like giving guidance and advice to uh, the entire organization when it comes to data, be it as technology or solution recommendations, or even working with the business to understand the problem and coming up with a vision of technologies available in the industry, how to make use of the technology to solve the problems in an efficient manner. And more importantly, there are two things I would say that we are focusing. One is how to make use of data and monetize the data that we have available, because there's so much of data that we collect from our source systems and also from various channels through we interact with our customers, or we might have a lot of transactions happening. So we collect all that data, and sometimes we might be using data to address a specific problem. However, we are looking at how to monetize data. That is one of the primary goals. And also, making our organization data driven is one of the key objectives for my organization. meaning we want everyone in the organization to make use of data and be able to derive insights by themselves. So the intent is
Yeah,
to
it's all about
provide.
the insights, definitely, right? It's all about the insights, right? The data needs to translate to information or insights and decision-making capability. That's when it really unlocks the value of data. So tell me, how do you go about making those decisions, and how do you prioritize what data to go after? Because right now there is an abundance of it, right? You just can't have enough storage space in the world. People are just getting petabytes, and I don't know what the next pieces of data, right? Sizing of data is, but we used to talk about megabytes not too long ago, but then it went to gigabytes and terabytes, and now it's petabytes. So tell us how you prioritize your approach to data, and where do you go after, finding the problems to solve? What's your process around that?
Yes, so there's a technology strategy, or I would say there is also a business strategy that any organization would drive towards. And as part of the business strategy, there is also a technology component, which is the technology strategy. And then, if you zoom the technology strategy, there's various components. There is application, there is APIs, and there's also data. Data is one of the component within the strategy. Identify what are the key objectives for the business, right? That's the first thing that we all look into. And how can we make use of data, and what technology choices we have available to solve the business problems by making use of data. It's a triangular relationship: business problem or metrics that you want to derive. There's data and there is technology. So if you could think of a triangle, the three edges, and the three edges, if you could put the business problem, data, and technology, so it goes hand in hand, that in any organization, the priority is going to be based on what is the problem you want to solve for and what is the technology. The second thing I would say, there's so much of data. To your point, data is growing tremendously. It's not just the data, but it's also the variety of data, right? We have different formats when it comes to data. We are seeing a lot of structured, unstructured, semi-structured data. So this is very unusual, I would say. Like 15 years back, we wouldn't see this sort of varied formats in data, but
Exactly.
very common these days. So there's a lot of challenges, that we have overcome. And today, the technology is very capable of handling all of this formats of data and the volume of
Right.
data.
Speaking of
Specifically,
technology, sorry to interrupt. Speaking of technology, how has cloud been a necessary evil? Is it because everybody's just doing it? Or is this something that has been a true enabler of the data revolution, right? Did the data revolution actually start because of cloud? What's your opinion on that?
sure.
And how are you in your cloud and machine learning journey, right? Like, how are these financial services companies generally adopting cloud technology when it comes to data?
Right. So going back to the previous question. So the varied formats of data and volume of data is among us. So cloud computing is certainly a boon for anyone looking at deriving insights
You bet.
using data. And the storage is, you can store whatever data you want, and also you can extend the storage as you want. It's also a pay per use model, which is a boon for any organization. So you don't need to be investing upfront in the technology or your infrastructure. So you use, and depending on your usage, you pay to the provider for what you
You pay as you
use.
go, right? Yeah, you pay as you go. That's
It's a
great.
very simple model, and it's also very practical and realistic. Like, let's say if I want to get a machine learning model running, and if I need compute resources, and I need capabilities, like for example in AWS or a GPU type instances that's readily available. I mean, like, you could spin up instances as quick as possible. Had it been the case, when you're doing everything on prem, you have to get the right configuration. You have to look at the compute resources you need, then you order the server and you make it available. So there's a lot of process involved. So the time it takes to do something is going to be a lot more than what we are dealing with today. And today, within an hour or so, you could get things done. Whereas previously, if you look at 10, 15 years back, it has been um a lot of time to accomplish any tasks, especially in machine learning space. And cloud computing is certainly a boon for anybody that is looking at deriving insights using data.
So, Mina,
Yeah.
I'm curious
Yeah,
to
go
build
ahead,
on this,
go
if you don't mind. I'm just curious to build on this. I remember 10, 15 years ago, you were dependent on data transmission to get access to the data, and sometimes the data volume was so big that by the time you can invoke it, it would drop, right? So you never actually got access to it, which is why cloud became such a big push and made it possible to essentially gain access to the data to get to that almost real time capability of analytics. I'm curious, with the emergence of 5G and with more devices on the edge, with the ability to cache data, do you foresee cloud computing getting competition to more localized capabilities from organization? Or do you see an expansion in cloud computing to adopt these new technology to make it even faster and seamless? Where are you seeing it going based on your experience?
So I think certainly there's innovations happening. There's also advancements happening in cloud computing, and there's a lot of capabilities available to balance and optimize performance. So, for example, AWS offers a lot of load balancing capabilities if you want to increase your SLAs, or, like, for example, if you want to reduce your SLAs, I would say. And if a task might be taking a couple of hours to complete, and you could based on the type of the service that you use, you would have options to bring the time down very considerably. So performance is one of the key pillars when we talk about cloud computing, and I think there's advancements happening in this space as well. So I think more to come on edge, and we would certainly see there might be a shift in future, but at the moment I think there is advancement happening in the cloud computing space as well.
Thanks.
I have a follow-on question. You mentioned machine learning. So, we keep hearing these buzzwords, right? Machine learning, deep learning, AI. Um, we're all jobs are going to be made redundant. Everything's going to be automated. What's your point of view on that? What's your take on these terms, keywords, technologies, etc., and how is that really adding value?
Yes. So there's machine learning, AI, cognitive analytics. These are all part and parcel of our life. Without knowing that we are using some of these technologies behind the scenes that we are living, right? For example, if I am going and doing a transaction in a bank, and these days, because of the pandemic, most of us are doing digital banking or online banking. So most of the time you would be able to do all your activities or tasks by yourself, like independent of any help from the agent or customer service rep. You could do all the tasks by yourself. So behind the scenes there could be chatbots, right? Chatbots are
Right.
typical examples where the conversational AI is advanced. And for example, you might be getting alert or a notification about the credit card payment, or like the default payment on a loan, or there could be other financial product wherein you might be getting reminders or notifications about payment due or upcoming payment. And most organizations behind the scenes might be using machine learning algorithms to predict who's going to be defaulting this month, or possibly be a defaulter, and would
Wow, you
predict
can
that.
do that. You
Right,
can
yeah.
predict that in advance, huh?
Right, yeah. And it's because of the behavior of the customer that most organizations would be collecting, and then match it against the payment behavior and the history of transactions they've had and the relationship they've had with the customer. Using that, they might be able to predict and say, hey, possible this customer could not make the payment on time, so let's go and see if the customer has paid or not paid. And then behind the scenes all this might happen, and we might be getting notifications. So there's variety of examples in our day-to-day life where machine learning and AI and cognitive analytics are part and parcel of our life, but it's not
Interesting.
known, and we think it's some uh, word that we are not introduced to, right?
Got it. Got it. Tulia, stop looking at me. I pay my credit card bills on time. Okay. So, and you're not a chatbot, so you don't get to predict my failure to pay my bills. Okay. And I do pay my bills on time. The way you were looking at me is like,
I
oh,
feel like
chatbot's gonna get him.
guilty. I
So
hope you're not an ally client because you're in trouble.
the chatbots flag me every month. No, but
But that brings up an interesting point, right? I mean, with these kinds of technology, also comes the concerns of they're watching me, right? They're keeping an eye on my behavior. How do you balance that out? Making people feel a little weirded out that that you have that kind of insight versus using it as a way to either serve them better and also protect yourself. How do you guys balance that out?
Right, so empathetically communicating with the customer and doing it right for the customer is primary focus of many organizations, including Ally. In fact, we believe in doing it right for our customers at Ally. So I think it's also evident that many organizations are taking proactive measures and offering short-term relief to their customers. So when the COVID started, Ally offered a lot of loan deferral programs to our customers, like payment deferral, meaning like there was a time period when the COVID was very worse, and we wanted to take care of the financial well-being of our customers, and we had options to defer loan payments for a certain period of time, and it also depended on the relationship we had with our customers. So it's always taking financial well-being of customers is a priority for many organizations, and also providing the right service at the right time is very crucial. So it's not necessarily that you get reminders from banks about your payment due or anything, but it's also making sure that we safeguard the financial well-being of customers by providing the right service and recommendations.
that's amazing. This convergence of this bot enabled or AI enabled experience powered by real data and insights of both the individual as well as, I guess, the overall segment is a very interesting confluence, right? And to that point, another, I guess, important consideration must be privacy and data security, right? So, what is your philosophy on that, right? Like, what are your points of view on how do you know, because there are many companies that have been in the press for the wrong reasons when it comes to not managing data well or exploiting the data for purposes that were not originally stated or understood, etc. Where do we draw the line here, Hannah? And what's the future entail in terms of data privacy and security?
Right. So data privacy and data security is a key pillar in any organization's data strategy. And specifically, if we talk about data security, there are three aspects. One is data at rest, in motion, and data in use. So these are the three areas where one need to ensure that the data is secure. So there's various techniques available to secure data. So if you are maintaining your data at rest and you're just going to be storing your data on cloud, you have options to encrypt the data, and you could also whitelist IP addresses where you might not potentially expose the data to somebody that's outside your network. So there's various options available to secure data at rest. So when we move data across the network or data gets moved, there's options to secure. There is protocols and standards that we could follow to secure data when data is in movement. And the most important thing that many organizations are dealing with is data in use, which is essentially your personally identifiable information, because we have to secure the PII attributes, and it's
Definitely.
very important to keep that information secure.
And it's
Uh,
very important for banks and healthcare organizations and I'm guessing retailers, right? Because you're dealing with sensitive information, financial information, social security numbers, credit cards, health data, and things like that. So some industries more than the others, I think, have to carry this burden a lot more in terms of protecting data and
yeah.
privacy and considerations.
Yeah, there's also compliance and regulatory needs in the financial services, and it's
Right.
very stringent. So we take all measures to protect the sensitive data. So various options available. You could restrict access to the sensitive elements, meaning there could be list of personas who can only access the sensitive elements, or there is option to encrypt. There is option to tokenize, or there is option to mask some of the attributes. So tokenization, predominantly you can see in credit cards, right? Like you might see there's XXX, right? So in the numbers, right? So that's basically tokenization behind the scenes. So there's options available, and it depends on the choice and the use case and what the organization wants and which industry the organization is part of and what sort of regulatory needs and compliance requirements they are governed by.
Got it. Got it. And is that a huge cost typically for an organization in terms of complying and keeping, or do you think that that's part and parcel of the whole data strategy?
It's part and parcel of the data strategy. It's not a separate area by itself. Like every day, it's part of the day-to-day activities of anybody who's working in data space. Like for example, we might be getting data from about customers, right? So there could be a number of source systems providing information about customers. So there is a process to go through the list of attributes before the data even gets ingested, review what sort of elements we are getting. Is there any PII attributes? So if so, then what is the process to follow? Should we mask or encrypt or tokenize? So that protocol, any organization will have a security function, and there might be recommendations from them. And based on the recommendations, you would take appropriate action to protect that element. So I think it's not a separate subject by itself. It's part and parcel of the data organization to make sure the data is secure, but mostly in conjunction with a security architecture function or information and a risk protection team in many organizations. They usually do this work.
Got it. So speaking of cloud technologies, when it comes to data, AI, and everything else, I know there's the typical major players out there. Can you speak to a little about the trends, or maybe something that one of the providers are doing better than the others, something like that? Uh, Love to understand what the future holds when it comes to data on the cloud.
Yeah, so the three major providers, as we all know, there is AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. All of them have competent capabilities and offerings. So it's not like one is better over other. So it depends on what an organization wants. Like for example, there could be a Microsoft-based systems predominantly, and they might find it better to go for Azure Cloud, whereas another organization might think Google Cloud or AWS could be a better provider. So it's there's not one is superior over other or anything. So all of them have good capabilities that anyone could go for. However, there's another blend of this, which is kind of a theme that was introduced several years back. In fact, one of largest financial services is build their own private cloud, with
Okay.
meaning that they haven't gone with any of the publicly available cloud providers. They build their own private cloud, and that's another model that we are seeing. There's also another model called hybrid cloud, which is a blend of some of this. So a few companies come together and they go for multi-tenancy, and that is a model where they share the tenancy, and it's called as a hybrid model, and that model is also common in some industries. So these are the predominant patterns that you could see when it comes to cloud models. And, there's a lot of capabilities available in all of the cloud providers that anyone could make use of.
Does anything around cost come into those decisions? I know that the cloud gets you up and running fast, but there's also the consideration of eventually the volume and scope can get costly versus a private cloud or a hybrid environment. How are people making those decisions? What's that demarcation point that says, okay, now we're overpaying now. We need to move this in house. What's any consideration around that? How are you strategizing around that and thinking that through for the future?
Right. In-house or private cloud models are predominantly happening in organizations where they have a lot of legal and compliance regulations that they cannot keep the data externally in a public cloud. So that's where we see this private cloud model. However, when we talk about cost optimizations, most of the cloud providers are offering ideas as how to save cost. So, for example, if I am using a service from AWS, I have a lot of options available to reduce cost. So, for example, EC2 instance within AWS, there's a variety of choices available. There is a spot instance, on demand, and there's also a reserved instance. So depending on my use case, I might even go for a spot instance because that might give me the capabilities or the compute that I need with a lesser cost than going for a on demand instance. So it depends on what is the problem and what sort of needs I have, what is the SLA, and based on that, you will make the right choice or right decision. So cost optimization itself is a big subject. So it's not like it's going to be a fixed cost always. It's going to be a varying cost. So there's education and knowledge needed in order for somebody to make wiser decisions. It's no longer that I'll be paying 100,000 towards the server cost. It's like, okay, I am going to do this workload. For this workload, I need XYZ capabilities. And for this capabilities, this is the cost. But I have other options, and based on the other options available, this is the cost. So should I go for this or that? So that sort of analysis needs to be done for any data pipeline. In fact, AWS recommends a well-architected framework. There's various pillars within AWS well-architected framework that a data pipeline can go through, and based on that, you can identify where your bottlenecks are and which service is essentially increasing your cost. So it's more about learning and understanding the pricing model, the consumption model, the usage model. It's not just like using cloud as a technology, but also having knowledge on all of these models. One could make intelligent choice and reduce the cost. So in fact, that's been one of the primary thing that many organizations are doing. They have a cloud council or a AWS council within the organization. The role of that the function is to promote and advocate and also educate their employees about how to use cloud and how the pricing model works. So based on that, the employees get to know what is the best option for their particular problem, and they can make wiser decisions. That has been the case in many companies, and there's a separate course that AWS offers to bring somebody up to speed on the consumption model, pricing model, usage, cost for various services. There's also a calculator available. So if you want to go and calculate how much you're going to be paying for what you're doing, you can calculate that upfront before you even go and implement that or execute that pipeline.
So, Tulio, now you know why Jeff Bezos is the second richest man in the world.
Yeah, no, of course.
So we're coming up on time. So, Mina, just one more question to close it out. Um, how do you measure success here? What are the challenges that one should look out for? Any words of advice for people out there who are setting out on this data journey to the cloud?
Um, yeah, so while there's variety of choices and this technology is growing constantly, it's not necessary that we need to use all technology choices. What is the right technology choice that would help me solve the problem? Um, do I have the right data to solve the business problem? So starting from that lens would be very helpful for any data leader. And also having a holistic strategy. Strategy is going to give big picture, and making sure that strategy is well received by various functions within the organization is very important, because IT is not working by itself. Like IT has to go hand in hand with the business. So making sure the business has uh, partnership and collaboration with any data
It's all about the
strategy
partnership.
is
Yeah.
very important. And plus, innovation is crucial these days, because we are seeing a lot of change every day. Learning and also failing quickly is very important, because the more you take to fail, the more time you're losing. So failing early on is much recommended than failing at a later stage. So it gives an opportunity for us to correct ourselves. So no one is perfect, but then when you fail early, like these are your strengths and weakness, and you can act upon it very quickly and be more proactive.
Got it. Got it. So yeah, we're out of time. Once again, thank you again, Mina. It was amazing talking to you. Really appreciate you sharing all these insights with us at Dojo Live. Once again, this is Ram Ganesan at Dojo Live, joined by Tulio Siragusa, and we were talking to Mina Tanikachalam, head of data strategy and architecture at Ally, and we talked about cloud computing and data analytics. Thank
Thank
you
you.
again, Mina.
Thanks for
Take care.
hosting. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.